Yeah, no, I mean obviously incredible atmosphere at the game. I think very special to be able to celebrate with our supporters like that. I think it was fantastic to see so many come on the field after and celebrate with the players and to see so many people in attendance. I think was a very special night for us. So it was great. No, guys have been in this morning. Yeah, we've once we started warm down, just went through a couple of things. I think for us again, we tried to be consistent in our approach, and so for us, nothing really changes. It's like yeah, celebrate it, but then we've got another big game coming up, so we need to be dialed into to that. Swope obviously a very good team. We've been to the championship final last year themselves, so they've got good experience. Again, another MLS2 team, so we need to be switched on for a very tough game. Well, I think for them, obviously, I'm sure it'll bring a lot of memories. I'm sure, having gone through disappointment ourselves in the first couple of years, I know that is used to try to motivate, and I'm sure it's the same for them. I've seen a couple of quotes where there obviously there's a desperation on their behalf to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So we need to be very mindful of that, but we can't really control a whole lot of what they do or how they prepare. We need to make sure that we get good solid week training into us, so we make sure that we're focused on the things we need to focus on. Yeah, I mean, I think again, I sort of touched on it with the supporters. I think there's a real sense of family. I think when you look at Louisville City, when you look at our supporters, I think there's a real camaraderie amongst the supporters, the players, the coaches. So I think for us, we feel as if we're representing the city, and we have done probably since our existence. And I think we try to make sure that our players are great role models within the community. I think our guys do so much in the community to try to give back. So I think when you have a lot of that connection, I think there's a natural sort of feeling that you want to go out and do well for everybody who's connected with the club, but also all the supporters. And certainly even from my standpoint, we've got neighbours that are all really big supporters. My children's friends are all really big supporters. So I think when you get that type of emotional bond with people, I think you have a sense to certainly go out and try to make sure you perform, and you try to win and do the very best you can. Kevin's been great. I mean, I think I went through a couple of instances throughout my career where I worked with one great sports psychologist. He's a really close friend, Richard Nugent. He has a company on leadership, fantastic company that do a hell of a lot of work. But when I was at Burnley, I first was introduced to Richard and spent some time with him. We became really good friends. So I think for me, it opened my eyes to the mental side of the game, the importance of having a strong mentality. Equally, I think it needs to be on a trust level. So what I've said to Kevin is that I don't necessarily want to know the ins and outs. Kevin has been able to meet the guys and sit down with the guys. They'll speak whatever they speak about, and that's between whoever decides to go and see Kevin and Kevin. For me, it's not something I need to be getting involved in. I want them to speak freely to Kevin, and he's been a great asset for us, and a great point of call that players, if they do want to tweak a couple of things, can go and have a conversation. Who's clinically sort of qualified to be able to deal with whatever it is they want to speak about. I don't think I ever looked that far down the road, if I'm being honest. I think for me, it's always just next game. I think there's a desperation to achieve success, and to make sure that you do a good job. But again, I think the time to speak about stuff like that is when the season's finished. I think the season isn't finished. I think we've got a massive game. So again, our focus just needs to be on preparation. We've already started looking at swope analysis, making sure the guys are right and get a good solid week's training into us, and then try to be ready for what will be the biggest game in the club's history. Yeah, no, I mean, I think enjoy it. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic achievement, but we're not finished. We still have another game left, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's fantastic, to see the joy that the players had and experienced on Saturday night, the supporters, a fantastic occasion for us. I mean, it was, well, in essence, it was. We created history, but equally, you don't want to then spend a week congratulating everyone and just sitting back and thinking that's it. You've got a huge game, probably the biggest game, as I say, in the club's history coming up. So we need to make sure that we're prepared and we're ready for that. I'm hoping I never have to give a rah-rah speech. I'm hoping that the guys are on point, and that I don't necessarily have to do it. I think for us, it's trying to, when you get to occasions like this, I think the emotional aspect is really important. So I think it's trying to make sure that people are consistent in their approach, and that they're not getting too high and too low. And I think when you get to this sort of level, when you're into the playoffs and you get to the final, a national final, it becomes paramount that you control the emotional aspect and you stay process orientated. You don't change. So that's the message. We need to focus on our process and make sure that we're dialed into the things that have brought us success this year. Well, you're looking at the scout, so I think for us, we'll make sure that we know everything about them, and we've got a fair idea. But equally, we've got some nice time to be able to sit down and to go through it and prepare. I think that's where, and I have to give Daniel and Tabani a big mention as well. I think both of the guys have worked tirelessly through the whole of the year. I think that they're two stand-up guys that have done a heck of a job as well. So I think, between the three of us, we'll make sure we sit down and we try to give as much information as we can to the players about Swope, whilst also then making sure we can focus on the aspects that we want to control ourselves, and some of the things that we want to try to do in the game. Yeah, it'll change the work week, if you like. I think obviously it's pretty unusual to play on a Monday, so but then I think culturally people tell me here that there's games be played on a Monday, and finals have been played on a Monday, so it is what it is. Again, we can't control that. We just need to make sure that we're prepped and ready to go. So we'll obviously be training Saturday, Sunday and playing on Monday. So it just changes the week a little bit. But I think when you get a game at this level of importance, I think, look, you could play at midnight sometime. It's irrelevant. I think for us it's the excitement of having a game like that at home and making sure that we try to be as well prepared as we can. I think for not in the final, I think for the home games we were able to, and we were lucky because the first game against Bethlehem was the Friday, because I think there was an issue with the stadium, and I think that's where the Bats deserve enormous credit as well. I think we've been able to work hand in hand with them, so I thank them for all their help, and Tom and all the grounds people have done a phenomenal job for us. So for us, I think again it's trying to be dialed into what we can control and make sure we're ready for that on Monday. I look delighted. I think for us, you saw his contribution on Saturday. It was a hell of a save from the free kick, and then the two penalties, which was great. I've said many times I've got tremendous belief in Greg. So just obviously delighted that he's chosen to play for us, which if I'm being honest, I don't think there was a doubt. I know what it means to Greg, so I think now we've got there, I didn't think for a minute that he wouldn't be playing.